Isaac Newton, the smartest man alive, was wiped out. He lost £20,000 chasing one hot stock. That is roughly $4 million in today's money. The richest professor in England, beggared by a craze. The man who mapped the planets could not map a crowd. Newton himself confessed the lesson that ruined him. "I can calculate the motion of heavenly bodies," he said, "but I cannot calculate the madness of people. Stay with me, because that one line can save your money." This is the South Sea bubble of 1720. It teaches the hard difference between true investing and gambling, and it shows how a whole nation went insane together. By the end of this, you will spot the next bubble. Let me take you back 300 full years. In 1711, Britain owed crushing war debts. The treasury was drowning and needed a clever trick, so a new company was created to swallow the debt. They called it the South Sea Company. Its promise was trade with the rich Spanish colonies, gold, silver, and spices from across the ocean. Investors imagined treasure ships returning every month. There was just one quiet problem with the dream. Spain controlled those seas and barely allowed trade. The company sent only a handful of real voyages. The actual profits from trade were almost nothing, but the story was intoxicating, and stories sell. The directors learned a darker way to make money. Instead of trading goods, they traded their own shares. They talked the price up and watched it climb. In January, one single share cost about £128. People bought eagerly, so the price rose a little more. A rising price pulled in even more buyers. Each new buyer became proof the dream was real. This is the engine of every bubble in history. Price goes up, so people buy, so price goes up. Notice what is missing from that whole sentence. Nobody asked what the business actually earned. They bought because the price was already moving. That single habit is the definition of speculation. Speculation is buying because you expect to resell higher. Investing is buying a slice of real earnings. One depends on the next buyer, the other on the business. Newton knew arithmetic better than anyone breathing. Early on, he actually bought South Sea shares. By April that year, he had nearly doubled his money. So he did the wise thing and quietly sold out. He walked away with about £7,000 in profit. If the story ended there, he stays a genius. But the price kept soaring after he left. By June, shares passed £700 each. Coffee houses became roaring betting halls. Exchange Alley was a river of frantic buyers. Dukes, maids, and clergymen all rushed in. Women in fine dresses traded beside dock workers. Everyone you knew seemed to be getting rich. Copycat companies sprang up overnight to cash in. One promised a wheel of perpetual motion. Another raised money for a secret, undisclosed purpose. Investors handed cash to a venture with no plan. That founder collected the money and vanished by night. These frauds are what a mania always grows. When prices detach from value, con men feast. Back to Newton, watching from the sidelines. He saw former friends grow richer by the day. The pain of missing out gnawed at him. This feeling has destroyed more fortunes than any crash. So the greatest mind of the age broke his own rule. Newton bought back in, right near the very top. And he bought far more than he had ever sold. He paid the wildly inflated price the crowd had set. He was no longer investing in a business. He was betting that the frenzy would continue. For a few weeks, the betting looked brilliant. Then, in late summer, the mood quietly turned. A few insiders began to sell their shares. Smart money slipped out the back door first. Confidence is the only thing holding a bubble up, and confidence can vanish in a single afternoon. Whispers spread that the company earned nothing real. The same crowd that bought now wanted out. Selling drove the price down, which caused more selling. The engine that lifted them now crushed them. By September, shares collapsed toward £150. Fortunes built in months evaporated in days. Families who borrowed to buy were ruined. Banks that had lent against shares failed. Suicides were reported among the broken speculators. Parliament launched a furious investigation. Directors were stripped of their estates. One was paraded in disgrace through the city. And Isaac Newton, the genius, lost it all. £20,000 simply gone in the collapse. A lifetime of careful savings erased in a single season. It is said he could never bear to hear the name. The South Sea Company became his forbidden word. So what exactly went wrong inside his mind? His arithmetic was perfect. His temperament failed. He let the crowd decide what a share was worth. He bought because others were buying around him. That is the trap that catches even brilliant people. Now, let me hand you the tools he lacked. First, separate the price from the value. Price is what the crowd shouts on a given day. Value is what the business truly earns over years. A roaring price tells you nothing about the second. Benjamin Graham would later name this exact trap. He called the market a moody business partner. Some days the partner offers you a wild price. Your job is to judge it, not to obey it. Newton obeyed the partner. Graham would have refused. Second, never buy a thing only because it rose. Rising price is the worst reason to buy anything. Ask instead what you are actually getting for the money. A share is a piece of a real company. If the company earns nothing, the paper is worth nothing. The South Sea Company had ships, but almost no trade. Its value was a story, and stories can end. Third, beware when everyone you know is buying. A crowd feels like safety, but it is not. Crowds buy at the top and sell at the bottom. The lonely, patient buyer usually wins in the end. Fourth, decide your value before you ever look at price. Newton had a profit, then greed rewrote his plan. Write your reasoning down so panic cannot edit it. Fifth, accept that you will miss some rallies. Missing a mania is not the same as losing. The investors who sold early and stayed out survived. Survival is the very first rule of building real wealth. You cannot compound your money if you blow yourself up. Notice that none of this ever required Newton's genius. It requires only the discipline he could not summon. Temperament, not brilliance, is the investor's edge. The South Sea bubble was not the last of its kind. The same pattern repeats in every generation. Dutch tulips, railways, radios, dot-com stocks and beyond. The objects always change. The human madness never does. Each time people swear this one is truly different. Each time price detaches from value and then falls. And each time the patient few quietly profit. Newton gave us the most expensive lesson in history. He could perfectly measure gravity, but never his own greed. That gap between cold numbers and hot nerves is everything. So when you next see a price soaring on hype, hear the old man's warning across 3 centuries. I can calculate the motion of heavenly bodies, but not the madness of people. Let the crowd chase price, you weigh value. Let them gamble on the next buyer, you own businesses. That single choice is the whole difference in the end. It is the difference between Newton ruined and Graham rich, between the speculator wiped out and the investor who lasts. Be the one who weighs value, never the one who chases. 3 full centuries later, this bubble still teaches us. Newton lost his fortune so that you would not have to. Learn his costly lesson freely and keep what you build. If this was useful, the next episode covers Mr. Market.